It's gonna be a long night. Yeah, let's go.
This episode, I'm gonna make a custom water to air intercooler and a custom shroud for my Mishimoto rad. Hey, how's it going? I'm back. So I've got a lot of work to do. I've got engines still in the car, rad still in the car. I'm doing new rad setup, so all that's gotta go. Very important. I'm just gonna get rid of all the stuff I know I'm not gonna need in one step, and then I will start modifying the car how I want to with the new rads, new engine. It's -10 in my shop, and I am just gonna do this. So as you can see, I got the engine out, rad is out, and this thing is completely gutted. I got the entire fuel system also out. And coming to the front here, I got the front rad out and the engine's out obviously and everything. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to start on my radiator setup. For 3 years, I've ran the rad in the trunk and it's worked, but honestly, I think I can do a little bit better of a job, get a bigger rad in the front, get weight in the front. My biggest thing is I want weight in the front because I keep spinning the front tires. I'm hooking up really good in the back. So I've got an engine back there, lots of weight there. I'm gonna be putting a huge rad in the front. Mishimoto rad, looking awesome. So I got a Mishimoto rad and it just happens to fit perfectly. This was sitting on the shelf at StimTech and I was like, mine? So as you can see, it fits really good for not like being meant to fit the car. So I'm very happy about that. I literally saw this and said, yo, can I buy this off you for cheap? And he was like, yeah, no problem. I'm going to actually run the stock cover. I never did that before. I'll show you what that looks like. That is the stock cover, which is cool. I can run stock parts again. So I'm going to modify it by putting a hole right here and I'm gonna make it screw to there, and then down there I'm going to have to make some welds, but that's fine, no problem there. So another thing is I'm gonna be running water to air intercoolers on my car and I need a radiator that is for water. So I had a Honda Civic rad that I ran in the front for the front engine, just for the normal coolant, and I'm gonna modify it and make it work for a water to air intercooler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the actual ins and outs, including all these crappy ones. And I used to run it like this and it didn't fit good. So I'm gonna make it nice because I can weld aluminum now and I can modify it to make it go right there. And I'm going to mount it within a 1/4 inch of the other rad so heat doesn't dissipate from the back rad to the actual intercooler. So that is going to help. And another thing is you also want it close without dissipating the heat. You want the intercooler as close to the rad as possible without it touching because it'll actually steal heat from it and that's not what you want. But you want it close so the air is still going in a straight line and will go through the rad, because if you have it far away, turbulence happens after the intercooler and it kind of just goes around the rad potentially rather than just going straight through it. Mint. So I've got it all leveled out. So now I'm going to add a couple more tabs in the bottom and then this thing is gonna be mounted, ready to go. Got my tabs all painted up and I've got a washer that I welded onto there. So now I can throw the rad in, see how it fits, and then I can move on to my intercooler. Bam, she's all in there, looks snug, and it is in there tight. Like she don't move an inch. So the next thing I have to do is I have to install a water to air intercooler, and I'm going to use a Honda Civic rad that I've got right here. This was my rad that I've used for a few years. It's looking a little beat, but whatever. I'm gonna make it work. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to cap all these holes. I'm gonna cap that one, and that one, and that one. The reason why I'm doing that is because I'm literally going to be running hose diameter as a normal hose for the outside that you would wash your car in. And this is obviously way too large. So what I'm going to do is plug all those, and then I'm going to install it right about here, and it's going to work great. All right, so I got all the crap off. So this is ready to go. There's no nooks and crannies. There's no bolt holes anymore. I ground it all off. So now I've got to figure out where I want my ins and outs. So I'm gonna patch all these holes too, fill those all in, and then add my ins and outs. So I'm going to need some fittings for my rad. Like I said, I need an in and an out, right? So I'm going to need a fitting for in and out that goes to a hose. I'm gonna use just normal garden hose. So I have two fittings here, and they are 1/8 too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm gonna turn them down so they do fit, because as you can see, it's literally the outside of the actual hose, and I don't want to jam it on. I want this to be an easy install and remove if I ever need to, because this is a race car and it gets worked on all the time. Boom, she's on. That is a nice bit now, that's great. Got two of them done and we're good to go. So here we are again. I got the fitting that I made, and I'm going to weld it on the side of the rad here, and then I'm going to weld the other one at the bottom down here, and it's going to work mint. I just tapped my bleeder hole here and it's looking good. So it's all threaded mint. So that's what I'm going to remove once I'm bleeding the system. This thing looks like crap. I just sanded it, so I'm going to wire brush it to get this back up to where it was before. It's been painted, it's been a whole bunch of things. It's looking like crap. I'm going to fill all these holes and weld my bungs on. All the holes are in, and I've got caps for everything. So I'm going to weld new caps onto all the holes I do not need. The last thing I gotta do is I gotta weld in a mount. So I have two aluminum bungs that I'm going to weld on, and that's gonna be where I'm gonna bolt up on the top, and then I'm gonna have to make something on the bottom. Look at that. So I actually welded on the bungs that I cut off of this rad in the correct orientation and spot I wanted to. It's solid up top, but not on the bottom. I've gotta do another mount on the bottom now. Look at that. Looks like it's brand new. This is a rad that I've used for 3 years, and now it's used for an intercooler. Now it's used for a water to air intercooler. So that is so sick. Got my mounts I custom made, a vent that I made, covered some holes, added some in and outs for my water lines. The water to air intercooler is done, and I've got a couple things I have to do to my brand new Mishimoto rad. I'm going to be running both my engines through this one rad right in front of me, and what I'm going to do to make that work is I'm going to have to add an in and an outlet. So I'm going to add them on the bottom, and I'm going to use the bottom of the rad for the rear engine and the top of the rad for the front engine, and it'll cycle from left to right just like normal. So like I said, there's the normal in and out right there. So I'm going to have to add a couple more down here for my rear engine. So I'm going to use these fittings that I cut off the old rad, and then I'm going to drill and weld them back onto the bottom of this brand new rad that I have. So since I got everything fitting good here, I'm going to make a shroud. So I'm gonna measure the actual inside of the core up and down. I'm going to cut it out of an aluminum sheet. 26 3/8 by 11 1/2. Here's my shroud. So what I'm going to do is cut out the corners here, and then these lines that I originally made are going to be my bend marks. So that's what I'm gonna bend down. So that is going to make this an actual 3D part then. But first I have to cut the holes for the fans. All right, I got everything marked out. So now I gotta bend the edges and cut out the centers. Got it all clamped up. I'm gonna bend it down and make this seam right here, all the way across. Not bad for a hammer and a piece of wood. And there we go. That's looking pretty sweet. Not bad for a hammer and a piece of wood. That honestly looks beautiful. I can't believe I made this. I'm actually very, very proud of that. It's nice and shiny. I was very careful when I was cutting it, and I am freaking stoked. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna screw one of my fans in, and then I'm going afterwards weld in a brace in the center to here, but I want it completely mated with the fan before I do that because I don't want any leaks. All right, I got her flipped over, and now I'm going to make a brace go down the center here just so everything's more rigid when the two fans are sitting on top like this, and you don't want it to really flex too much because I want a good seal here. When you don't have any proper clamps, you use one of those, and then you use one of those to hold one of those. These were some pretty ugly welds, but it's all sealed up and that's good. I'm gonna test and see if it's all square. She's looking fresh, but honestly, that's looking awesome. Look at that. Okay, so the shroud is set up where I want it, and I have both my fans in there, just in there for rigidity right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to weld the shroud to the rad, and I'm gonna stitch it. So I'm gonna do about 1 inch welds and then do a big gap in 1 inch, 1 inch, 1 inch. Then I'm gonna seal it later on, but that is how I'm going to do this. I've got her all welded in. I've got it stitch welded all the way around, and it's looking good. And it's obviously sturdy, so that's good. Now I'm going to seal the actual shroud to the rad. So I'm gonna run a bead all the way across, all the way around at the top as well. And then it's going to be 100% sealed. And then the only air that can come through the fans is from the other side of the rad, which is exactly what you want. I just ran a bead of sealant around it, so it is 100% sealed to the rad now. Now I'm going to install my fans, and I'm 100% done. Look at that, that's beautiful. And it's all done. That is a lot of cooling in the front here. This is gonna be a huge difference for my radiator setup and my water to air intercooler setup. I never ran a water to air intercooler or intercooler at all, so the car is going to make much more power efficiently, and it's going to be so much better. The only thing I have to do is I have to drill a hole in here, and I'm going to add a fill neck here and a spot for a overflow, but I'm waiting on those parts, so I'm just gonna end this one off right here.